Thank you so much, Father Looney. This has been so inspiring. So our guest today is Father Edward Looney, who is an internationally recognized Marian theologian, writer, speaker, and radio personality. He hosts the podcast How They Love Mary. And we're so pleased to have the opportunity to discuss with him his book of the same name, How They Love Mary, recently published, 2022. So welcome, Father Looney, to the Rosary Hour podcast and our Digital Café.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I love the fact that you held up the book and there were lots of Post-it notes. So it means you must have enjoyed it.
Yes, we're learning a lot. And I just love the way that it brings together so many stories of how so many people have, how they have approached Mary, how they love Mary, and how they set an example for us. So we're going to jump in with a bunch of questions for you and take turns. But I want to start by saying how much we've enjoyed your book and how much we kind of identify with your mission a little bit. We started our Rosary Hour podcast project with the aim of teaching the Rosary to our children initially, to ourselves again, if it had been a while, and then sharing that with others. And we're a bunch of writers, scholars, and educators in different areas. And this brought us together to use our skills in a different way. And we really identified with the way you write in the introduction that one of the ways that you love Mary is through your research, your writing, your work of learning about her, and then being able to share that with others, and then also putting together a book like this that shows us the ways others have loved Mary. So why don't we start with if you could tell us how the book came to be, or whether it was the podcast first and then the book, or both at once.
Yeah, so it's kind of a both and type thing. So I wanted to write How They Love Mary, the book, for the longest time. In fact, before I published some of my other books, that's the book I wanted to write, but no publisher wanted to publish it. So you kind of just sit with it. And it's interesting because the right time always comes about. So had the book been published 5 years ago, it would have only told the tales of Americans and kind of the American featured people that I've written about, whereas now it's more broad. It's a 28-day devotional in a sense. So it looks a lot different than what it would have looked like. So sometimes time is okay. It's okay. It's a wait. And in the meantime, when the book wasn't kind of getting picked up, I thought, well, one way to help that might be to start a podcast of the same title. So that's what I did, just to kind of gain kind of that brand name recognition, if you will. So yeah, it was a long desire, and then the podcast, and then finally the book came about.
And maybe some sense of our mother kind of guiding the process to some extent.
Yeah, definitely. I think, of course, whenever you do a project for the Blessed Mother, you have her cheering you on, praying for the project. And sometimes you would receive like inspiration at kind of a moment where you weren't expecting it, or, you'd have a conversation with someone. I went to someone and I said, hey, this is the situation. I think I need another woman. I need, someone to feature, because I'm a priest. So a lot of the people I look to are priests. So I'm like, can you give me the name of some women saints that you think I should look into or whatever? And one of them they recommended was this Teresita Quevedo. She's a venerable, and I'll tell you, learning about her was one of the best things that could have ever happened. And I think she's a very profound witness of Marian devotion. And I'm grateful to have learned about her and to meet her really through her autobiography.
Hi, Father Looney. Just to reiterate Tina's points, thank you so much for meeting with us today. It's wonderful to be able to spend time with priests such as yourself, just in our own journey and our own learning. So very much appreciate your time. We're meeting today on the 13th of October, 2022. So we were wondering if you could perhaps take a moment to explain why today is significant, why October the 13th, 1917 is significant and what happened on that day?
Yeah, so October 13th, 1917 was the culmination of the series of Marian apparitions in Fatima, Portugal. And during these apparitions, on the 13th of each month, with the exception being August when the children were in jail, Our Lady continually asked them to pray the rosary every day. And she kept saying that there would be a sign on October 13th. So it was a rainy day there in 1917. Tens of thousands of people. I think the number might be 90,000 people or so gathered on that day in Fatima to witness whatever sign was going to come. And the sun, it was rainy, and the sun during the apparition came pulsating really down to the ground. And all the people who were soaking wet were dry. And this was kind of one of those little, not little, it's a big miracle, the miracle of the sun, and it's been replicated in other Marian apparitions where people are able to see this miracle of the sun as well. So that was the profound miracle. But then Our Lady kept telling the children, "I'll tell you my name on the last apparition." She said, "I'm the Queen of the Holy Rosary." And then there was a series of apparitions as well. So you had Our Lady of Sorrows, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and then you had Mary and Saint Joseph with the Christ child who was blessing the world. So a series of apparitions, which really kind of, in a sense, reflects the Rosary mysteries, first of all, and secondly, also just kind of the life of Sister Lucia as well, kind of her life and religion as a religious.
Why? So Mary has appeared over the ages. She's performed various miracles, including, as you said, repeating the miracle of the sun in different locations. Why do you think she does this? It seems like a simple question, but I find myself often wondering, why does she come? Why? What are we not doing that makes her come again and again and again? And why the miracle?
Yeah, Our Lady comes in her apparitions because, as a mother, she has great concern for humanity, especially when we go astray, and she wants to bring people back. So, look at the apparition, for example, of Our Lady of La Salette. Well, people were using God's name in vain, they weren't honoring the Sabbath. And so she comes and she brings a message, and she says, stop dishonoring my son's name, honor the Sabbath. And it's really a call to the people to come back to God. And the same thing is true in Fatima, where we have this apparition of Our Lady, and there's war going on. There's future war that could take place, as she prophesied. And so she comes with a message of peace. So, in a sense, Mary's apparitions are an intervention in the life of the world to say, focus on the things that matter rather than to focus on the things that don't.
So in your book, How They Love Mary, in the chapter on St. Francis de Sales, okay, page 153, you kind of outline for us a strategy that we can use to for different feast days, and we can apply it to today as a Memorial Day, although it's not an actual feast day. And you've broken it down into 4 different points. So what is the feast about? How does it give me hope? What am I to love? And what am I to do in response? If we use today, October the 13th, 2022, as an example, can you walk us through understanding these questions?
I take this from St. Francis de Sales, from his Assumption, or from his homilies about the Blessed Mother. Could have been for the Feast of the Assumption or any of them. He has a lot of Marian homilies. Tan Books publishes them in 1 volume. So that was my takeaway, was like, when he would reflect on the feast, he'd always say, like, what is this feast that we celebrate? Why are we doing it? And what does it matter, in a sense? So today, October 13th, is the anniversary of the miracle of the sun. And so really our celebration is recalling the words Our Lady spoke in that final apparition, but then also that great miracle.
The next question was, how does it give me hope? Because a lot of times when I think about, where we've come since then, and maybe this is just my negative sort of pessimistic outlook on life sometimes, it's hard to find hope. It feels like we're veering down a more slippery path all the time. So how do we find hope?
Yeah, so I think the miracle of Our Lady of Fatima on October 13th gives us hope because, Well, first of all, it's a manifestation of God. Like God allows this miracle to take place. It confirms the apparition of Our Lady. And so it gives me hope that God is real, God exists, God shows us signs and wonders, just as Jesus did in his public ministry when he healed the sick or calmed the stormy water. So I think the hope is that what was said in Fatima is true and real.
And then what am I to love was the next one.
Yeah, if we think about Fatima, what am I to love as a result of it? Well, I'm supposed to love the mysteries of Jesus's life. Mary says, pray the rosary every day for peace in the world. Well, the rosary contains a reflection on the joyful, the sorrowful, the glorious, and luminous mysteries of Jesus's life. So that's what I'm supposed to love. As I think about those mysteries, I'm supposed to fall in love with the scriptures in a sense. I'm supposed to fall in love with the story of a God who was so caught up in love with us that he came to this earth, that he died for us, and that he rose from the dead. So really, Jesus has to be the object of our love as a result of the apparition of Fatima. And then the final question is, how do I express this? And it's simply through praying the rosary. It's doing what Our Lady said. If everyone prayed the rosary, the world would be a different place. I would be different. You would be different. We'd all be different if everyone committed daily to reciting the beads of Our Lady.
So, Father, why are we not listening?
It's a great question. Why don't we listen? I think the evil one has a factor there. Just the evil one is always trying to thwart the plans of God. And so just go back to the garden when Satan gives to Eve an apple or whatever the fruit was, gives her this fruit. God said, don't eat from this tree, but the evil one says, yes, eat from this tree. So I think in our life, and it's probably the allurement of different things. So, how can I spend my time? Well, I can binge this television show on Netflix. I can go and go to the football game. I can go out with friends tonight. And so we place a greater priority over earthly things than spiritual things. So I think we don't listen because we're distracted. And if we were more focused on the things of heaven, things would probably be a little different.
Are you working on any other book projects?
Oh, perfect. Okay, sure.
It may be too soon for that.
Or a movie. We're doing a movie,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So, I always have a lot of different projects in the pipelines. I'm kind of stepping back, even though it might not seem like I'm stepping back. I'm not actively working on any book with a contract, so that's one thing. And partly it's partly I just want a little time to rest from all that work, but at the same time, I haven't had the inspiration yet. So that's the other thing is How They Love Mary was, I call it my magnum opus or whatever, my great work. And honestly, there's nothing that I want to write after it, to be honest. These children's stories, they'll come out. That's fine. I did a documentary that's one of few that won at one film festival. We were selected in other film festivals. So that's it's on roadside chapels from the Northeast Wisconsin. So kind of a carryover from Belgium. But there are lots of little shrines and devotions along the roads in Europe. So I tell the story of the local roadside chapels here in Northeastern Wisconsin. It just aired on EWTN, actually. So it'll have a airing on YouTube one of these days. We're just kind of waiting for all the film festivals to get done before we do a public release. So there's that. I'm wrapping up right now reading over 2,500 pages of the Mystical City of God every day. So I'll tell you that work 365 days, and I'm not as organized as like Father Michael Schmitz, who probably has everything recorded half a year in advance. Like I literally wake up in the morning and record the next day. So it's been a day in and day out project. And I'm going to be relieved when I hit publish on day 365. There'll be a sadness. There's been a great joy in reading it. And just to hear the feedback from people all over the world that are participating and coming to know the work of Maria of Agreda. So yeah, that's kind of the things that I'm working on, and I'm kind of just looking forward to everything being done, and there just being a little time to rest and recharge. So
You are listening to the Digital Café, presented to you by the Rosary Hour Podcast, a production of Travessa de Senra House Press in Porto, Portugal.
This is Father Chris Alar, the Provincial Superior of the Marian Fathers here at the National Shrine of the Divine Mercy, and it's great to be part of the Rosary Hour Podcast. This mini-series on the Rosary is an invitation for anyone dedicated to deepening the why behind our prayers. And with that intention, a chance to offer to the Mother of God a genuine desire for change of heart and return to God. Thank you and enjoy, and God bless you.
You can subscribe to the Rosary Hour Podcast by going to rosaryhourpodcast.substack.com. That's rosaryhourpodcast.substack.com.